Hello everyone, welcome in today's video. In today's video we have another Beyond Boundless video, and this is episode 10 of Beyond Boundless, the Beyond Boundless scaling of Hecate, DC's collective unconscious. Now for a quick disclaimer. In this video I'll be using something called a Type 4 multiverse within my scaling. A Type 4 multiverse is a very complex subject, so if you haven't seen them already, I would recommend my Power Scaling 9 Types of Multiverse video or my Type 4 Multiverse Explained video. Either one of those should help out understanding what a Type 4 multiverse is, as well as its power scaling. I will briefly go over it in the video, but it may be helpful to use this. Furthermore, another disclaimer should be that this video is a follow-up from my How Large is the Dark Multiverse Beyond Boundless video, so I'd recommend watching that video before you watch this. If you wanted to, you can watch them afterwards, but it'd make more sense to watch this after. So, because I'm going to be using the Type 4 multiverse scaling, it's important to understand the requirements for a Type 4 multiverse. Here are two scans dictating what these requirements are in the words of Tegmark, the creator. To summarize these requirements, we would say that first, we need to show that a Type 4 multiverse has a physical world equal or greater than a Type 3 multiverse. This is for the baseline for which everything will grow from. The next thing is we need to show that the verse has what is called mathematical democracy. And then lastly, one of the things that people must miss the most when talking about a Type 4 multiverse, that is the existence of external reality hypothesis, a very important factor to scaling a Type 4 multiverse. This is all explained and shown in my original explaining of the Type 4 multiverse. For the first requirement of showing the physical world as equal or greater than a Type 3 multiverse, this can be shown quite easily, but you must first understand how a Type 3 multiverse actually works. A Type 3 multiverse is a specific quantum multiverse of which has infinite possibilities from quantum states, and that goes up to infinite dimensionality. This can be shown in these two scans from Tegmark's original paper. But of course, for DC Comics, simply getting to infinite dimensional is quite easy. Here are two different scans talking about there being infinite different parallel worlds with infinite dimensions, making a distinction between the different possibilities being parallel worlds and the dimensions being dimensionality, otherwise it would not be referred to two different things. As well as the fact we straight up know that there are innumerable dimensions within DC Comics, trying to say that it's beyond something that's countable, obviously something that's infinite. Also, on the idea of showing that they are a quantum state, we know back in the day when, just in the classic days, Superman already showed this, showing their infinite different possibilities from quantum strings and vibrations, showing that DC's lower end of the cosmology definitely has a physical world equal or greater than a Type 3 multiverse. Now, for the second assumption, we need to show that the verse has mathematical democracy, which mathematical democracy is saying that all mathematical structures exist out there in the same sense. Or in other words, we're saying that the mathematical structures and mathematics itself exist as a thing, not just a concept. We could say that, oh, there is mathematics, as opposed to, I can think of these numbers. Best way to show this, I have found in DC Comics, is to use Swamp Thing, where he was surpassing the physical world, and in doing so also surpassed mathematics itself, showing that it was a thing that existed out there. An extra assumption I like to put on to sort of express the size of a Type 4 multiverse, purely because it makes it easier when explaining it, is to use transfinitism. The reason why is transfinite numbers introduce ordinal numbers, and ordinal numbers makes it easy for me to make comparisons. So for that, I also like to bring up the scan in DC Comics of Gorilla City with its Institute of Transfinite Numbers, something that can be found quite easily in Flash Volume 2's Secret Files. Assumption 3, External Reality Hypothesis. There exists an external physical reality completely independent of us humans. To explain how an external reality hypothesis may work, since that definition does sound a bit vague, we can look at a multiverse model that in fact uses external reality hypothesis. In the 9 types of multiverses talked about by Brian Greene, the 6th one is the quantum multiverse, which is high hyper. The 7th one is the holographic multiverse, the first multiverse model to use external reality hypothesis, in which, in its description, it directly compares it to the likes of Plato and his Platonic cave. Essentially saying that external reality hypothesis is showing something is outerversal. As we all know, Platonic concepts are outerversal. This is even shown in Tegmark's work for his Type 4 multiverse, a much greater multiverse than the holographic one, as it is the 9th one on the list. The Type 4 multiverse directly stating that it uses Plato's forms as just one of its mathematical axioms. Now that we've explained how external reality hypothesis works, we should show that the DC multiverse has external reality hypothesis, or more precisely, has Platonic concepts. To do this, I'll be using a clip from my DC Dark Multiverse video, as it went over this in very good detail. Now it's time for the classic Platonic concept scaling for DC Comics. This is used for members of the God Sphere, as stated by Batman, where members of the God Sphere should all be Platonic in nature. We also know that Darkseid alone is so large that he could just fall and destroy the entire multiverse. This will be interesting later on as well. We also know from Wonder Woman that members of the new gods and old gods are able to fight with metaphors or archetypal weapons. We also know that from Grant Morrison himself that he believes the new gods are Platonic concepts. So it is very consistent for the new gods in the God Sphere to be Platonic concepts. Now that example I mentioned a second ago, where Darkseid would fall and destroy the multiverse, this is actually really good for proving they're being Platonic, and I'll explain why in a moment. First, I think we should go over Plato's cave in the words of people who study Plato, so we get it word for word and not just my words.
Plato realizes that the general run of humankind can think, and speak, etc., without so far as they acknowledge any awareness of his realm of forms. The allegory of the cave is supposed to explain this. In the allegory, Plato likens people untutored in the theory of forms to prisoners chained in a cave, unable to turn their heads. All they can see is the wall of the cave. Behind them burns a fire. Between the fire and the prisoners there is a parapet, along which puppeteers can walk. The puppeteers, who are behind the prisoners, hold up puppets that cast shadows on the wall of the cave. The prisoners are unable to see these puppets, the real objects, that pass behind them. What the prisoners see and hear are shadows and echoes cast by objects that they do not see. Here is an illustration of Plato's cave. From Great Dialogues of Plato, Warmington and Rouse, eds. New York, Signet Classics, 1999. Page 316. Such prisoners would mistake appearance for reality. They would think the things they see on the wall, the shadows, were real. They would know nothing of the real causes of the shadows. So when the prisoners talk, what are they talking about? If an object, a book, let us say, is carried past behind them, and it casts a shadow on the wall, and a prisoner says, "I see a book," what is he talking about? He thinks he is talking about a book, but he is really talking about a shadow. But he uses the word book. What does that refer to? Plato gives his answer at line 515b2. The text here has puzzled many editors, and it has been frequently amended. The translation in Gruber-Reeve gets the point correctly. And if they could talk to one another, don't you think they'd suppose that the names they used applied to the things they see passing before them? Plato's point is that the prisoners would be mistaken, for they would be taking the terms in their language to refer to the shadows that pass before their eyes, rather than, as is correct, in Plato's view, to the real things that cast the shadows. If a prisoner says, "That's a book," he thinks that the word, book, refers to the very thing he is looking at. But he would be wrong. He's only looking at a shadow. The real referent of the word, book, he cannot see. To see it, he would have to turn his head around. Plato's point, the general terms of our language are not names of the physical objects that we can see. They are actually names of things that we cannot see, things that we can only grasp with the mind. When the prisoners are released, they can turn their heads and see the real objects. Then they realize their error. What can we do that is analogous to turning our heads and seeing the causes of the shadows? We can come to grasp the forms with our minds.
Now that you've literally had the information read out to you, allow me to give the interpretation that would make this outerversal or conceptual. Now, when I say about Platonic concepts, I'm strictly using the analogy that Plato's cave, which is the exact same thing DC Comics is doing. as part of Plato's analogy, is that it is an analogy. So we will be using it as a literal form because that's how it's used in the comic. Now, all parts of reality are meant to be the shadow that everyone is gazing upon. The shadow is non-existent. Think about what a shadow is. The shadow is the absence of light. It's the absence of existence. So if you say the light was 2D, the shadow is not even that. It doesn't exist. It's the absence of any light. That is how all reality is perceived in DC Comics. If you look more closely in the scan of where Darkseid's falling, it doesn't actually say that he's going to destroy the multiverse by falling. It says his shadow is going to destroy the multiverse as he falls. A non-existent fragment of Darkseid is going to destroy infinite dimensions by falling. If it's non-existent in comparison to him, then it makes a good sense that things that do exist on a conceptual plane, that is Platonic, should be Outerversal. So now that we have shown that we have a physical world equal greater than a Type 3 multiverse, a verse that has mathematical democracy, and the existence of external reality hypothesis, we can now go and show that the collective unconscious in DC Comics actually contains all of this, which basically means to show that it is responsible for all the possibilities from the god sphere lower down, which we can actually show. Hecate, the personification of the collective unconscious, is able to give birth to all the different creation myths within DC Comics. These creation myths are literally stated were given touches of her magic so they could delight in the possibilities in the world around them, and this is prior to creating their creation myths. So the verse and all its responsibilities, you could say, is a byproduct of the magic of Hecate and the collective unconscious. This means Hecate and the collective unconscious scales to a Type 4 multiverse. Now, this is a Beyond Boundless video, and in my Beyond Boundless videos, I need to show why the scaling is Beyond Boundless for it to qualify as a Beyond Boundless scale. So many of you who have seen Type 4 multiverse scaling before in my previous videos, you already know what's coming, but as you all know, I should explain this anyway for people who have not seen it. Of course, Type 4 multiverse is bigger than a Type 3 multiverse, which is high hyperversal. In the 9 types of multiverses, we already know that the 7th one, the holographic multiverse, was outerversal. But for a Type 4 multiverse, we're going to need some better quantification. If we want to show a bit of quantification, we'd say that outerversal would be on a scale where we'd say like it's a 1. We'd say that normal physical matter on this same scale would be a 0. Therefore, we can make our axiom for our transcendences. We then go to number 2, which would be high outerversal. On character stats and profile, they actually have their own one at infinity. This is 1S extraversal. It's a very powerful tier. The old Boundless on Versus Battle Wiki transcended high outerversal, how high outerversal transcended outerversal. So in this scale, it'd be a number 3. And for the final comparison, the Type 4 multiverse. Type 4 multiverse contains all mathematical structures that could exist. And because it's all of them, we would just say it's as mathematically deep as possible. A baseline infinity wouldn't be as mathematically deep as possible, so it'd be far beyond that of just 1S. For a visual of how much further a Type 4 multiverse is than extraversal, we would use the scale for inaccessible cardinals, where extraversal is just infinity, not even the lowest inaccessible cardinal, so below the whole scale, while a Type 4 multiverse would be near the top to basically any of these 4 huge ones at the very top of the scale. Now we have the collective unconscious, which is personified by the goddess Hecate, scaling to a Type 4 multiverse. In my previous Beyond Boundless video on the Dark Multiverse, it too scaled to a Type 4 multiverse. So that means there are 2 cosmological structures in DC Comics that scale to a Type 4 multiverse. So what happens? Well, if you scale the collective unconscious above the Dark Multiverse, then the collective unconscious is a Type 4 multiverse branching off a Type 4 multiverse. If you scale the Dark Multiverse above the collective unconscious, then the Dark Multiverse is a Type 4 multiverse branching off a Type 4 multiverse. Which one would I go with personally? Well, based on Scott Snyder's interview as well as his statement from The Flash, I would actually say that the Dark Multiverse is the larger of the 2 structures, making the Dark Multiverse a Type 4 multiverse branching off a Type 4 multiverse. And with that, I can now say Marvel, SCP, and DC Comics all have 2 Beyond Boundless videos each. Wonder what my next Beyond Boundless video will be? Comment down below. Thank you all for watching this video. If you like more Beyond Boundless videos, just check out the Beyond Boundless playlist. You can find that in the description and the link at the end of this video. Also in the description of this video, we have links to other YouTubers who are power scaling that I find are very good and underrated. In fact, 14% of people say that they don't check the description. Do check the description, there is information there that'll be very useful to you. You can see channels such as my pals Captain Forrest and Corin O'Keefe. With that, hope you all have a good day. Check out the description, check out the Beyond Boundless playlist, and thank you all for watching.